Did you know that most great players don't become great coaches? It's a whole different world. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to make that jump, from playing on the field to coaching from the sidelines, then this video is for you. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Thomas, founder of FC Training. I played at an extremely high level in my playing career, but I've made the transition and I now dedicate my life and my time to coaching and developing players. But that transition was not easy. Today I'm going to share with you some of the lessons I've learned making the transition from player to coach. At first, when I was in college and decided I wanted to get into coaching, I thought coaching would come naturally. After all, I'd played the game for 2 decades and I'd played at a very high level, but I quickly realized that playing and coaching are 2 entirely different skill sets. As a player, you're focused on you, your performance, your role, your development, but as a coach, you're responsible for everyone. You've really got to see the big picture. Some of the things that I struggled with at first, and sometimes still do to be honest, were delegation, managing personalities, and even just explaining what came instinctively to me as a player. But the biggest challenge? Letting go of the player mindset. I couldn't just jump in and say, this is how it's done. I had to learn how to inspire, how to lead, and how to teach. Now, one of the biggest lessons I've learned through all of this is the power of communication. As a player, you're told how important communication is, but you communicate in moments, in these short, sharp instructions. But as a coach, every single word matters. You're setting the tone and you're shaping the culture. And I also had to dive deep into strategy beyond just simple formations. I had to think, how do I get this specific group of players to understand this concept? And where so many coaches miss the mark, in my opinion, is that they think their coaching and their ability as a coach is about what they know, whereas in reality, it's what the players can absorb. Because if your players can't absorb your message, it doesn't matter how much you know, you have to communicate it in an effective manner to where they're actually going to be able to implement what you're coaching them. And finally, a really tough lesson to learn is player management. Every single player is different, regardless of what age you coach. If you're looking at 7-year-olds, you still have to understand why they're out there and what they want from the game to get the best out of them. But then once you get up to the higher ages and the higher levels, it becomes even more difficult to manage personalities and desires of every individual within a team. Because every athlete's different. Some athletes need a push, some athletes need a hug. When you learn to read and reach every single player on a personal level, that's going to be the game changer as a coach. And that's when you're going to see all of your tactics, all of your strategy start to come together when those players on the field listen to you and respond to what you say. Now, story time. There was a moment that changed a lot for me very early on in my coaching career. I was coaching a young team. They were a lower level team, but they were a lot of fun. And I was challenged with them because I wanted to push them. I wanted to implement tactics, but they just weren't ready for that. So I had to look inside myself and learn to understand what can this group of players really take in. So I started having a different focus to every single training session. I was really intentional about how I connected with players. But there was one time where I had a session that candidly was probably a little bit too advanced for these players. It was clear that the session was falling flat. The players really just weren't absorbing what I was saying. And I had a player come up to me at the end of the session that said, "Coach, sometimes I just don't understand what you're saying." And this might sound simple, but when you hear it from a player that's 11 years old, it makes a big impact on you. They said they didn't understand what I was saying, but when I stepped in and did step by step and really showed them the specifics of what I was looking for, rather than talking high level, that's when they started to understand the game. So, lesson to learn from that is that you need to change your message depending on who your audience is. Once you understand who your players are, who that audience is, and how receptive they are to different messages, that's when you can level up as a coach. So that was my light bulb moment. I realized coaching isn't just tactics, it's about connection. So since then, every session I run is all about clarity, empathy, and purpose. That moment shifted my coaching career and has allowed me to coach so many players since then so much better. So making that transition from player to coach isn't about just reassessing your role, it's about rewiring your mindset. Communication, strategy, empathy, these are the tools that I've picked up along the way. And guess what? I'm still learning. If I'm fortunate enough to live to 65 years old and still have the ability to be coaching at that age, I guarantee you I will still be learning after 45 years of coaching. So just like we expect from our players to never think that they're the expert, to never think that they have it all figured out, as coaches, we have to be the same way. We should always be looking to constantly improve and grow in our coaching abilities. So if you're on your own journey from player to coach, I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment and let me know where you are in your player or coaching journey. And also let me know if you found this video helpful, if you want to hear more about my personal stories, or if you want more playing or coaching tips or on the field advice for training sessions and drills that you can do to be a better player or a better coach. And make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It helps me to help you better. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you in the next video.